shopgear.com.
The following is a presentation of the GERE Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Pat G. The G stands for gangster. Here we are, live from the GERE Network Studios, and my guest tonight is the man that owns the GERE Network, one JC Money.
I find it funny. We're at the GERE Network Studios, and you're calling me the guest. You're a guest in the GERE Network Studio, damn it. No, I'm kidding. It's good to be here. Good to be here, Pat G. How the hell are you?
I'm good. Trying to survive with this crazy weather that we are having, where it's like fall meets summer meets just crazy sinuses and allergies.
Yeah, I'm sniffling like a son of a bitch over here. So if I don't, for anybody that is listening, that may listen to my podcast or have followed me over the course of the past 19 years that I've been involved in entertainment and pro wrestling, and I don't sound like my normal jipper self, it's because I'm stuffed like a son of a bitch, right? It's stuffed up like a son of a bitch. It's terrible.
Well, we are going to start off with the controversy that WWE faced following the WWE Super Showdown show in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And it's not
it's in Jeddah. As long as they're in America, Super Showdown was in Jeddah. It was only when they were in Saudi Arabia was when they started talking about being in Saudi Arabia, where they were and all that crap.
That's true. Very, very, very true. Well, not really going to talk about the matches, so to speak. Going to talk more about the fallout and everything of the...
Silence your damn phone.
It's a new phone. I just picked up the S10, so...
Oh, all right. Good for you.
Forgot to silence it. My fault. Whatever. Patchy blow spots.
You're you know what, Pat G? You're gonna realize that when you podcast with me, Pat G, you're gonna realize that I'm very much on the fly, very like that. For example, silence your damn phone.
Yep.
Anyways, go ahead, Pat G.
No, you're good. But the fallout of the Super Showdown and basically much of the fallout is to do with the heat. They believe that the heat was a major factor as to why a lot of the show was not the greatest that it should have been. And they kept showing it on the feed, like the real feel, like down here on the ground, it's 101 degrees, it's 94 degrees regular and whatnot. So basically you're telling the people that are watching at home or took off whatever to watch this that, it's hot. So the WWE wrestlers are basically facing the same kind of conditions that your NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL players face, where like the temperature is different from the stadium to where the actual playing surface is.
Well, I mean, I think that's just more them trying to present it in a sports-like fashion.
Yeah.
More than anything, at least from the presentation perspective is concerned, and telling the fans, hey, it's the real feel down in the desert arena or whatever the hell it's called is 110 degrees, and I would think that with as much money that was invested in these Saudi shows, that they would invest in the same manner that they would in WrestleMania, where, like, for example, being in New York or New Jersey rather, at MetLife Stadium, where they had heaters installed around the ring area, so even if it was snowing outside and the fans are freezing their nuts off, the wrestlers in the ring would be completely comfortable.
Yeah.
I would have thought that they would have done something like that as well. Mm-hmm. All things considering, that seismic financial deal that WWE and Saudi Arabia have for now 9 more years of wonderful Super Showdowns and greatest this, that, and the other thing. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fan to begin with. My own political views and views on that situation as a whole, I'll keep that. I'll save that for another podcast. But it just feels like WWE, especially when it comes to when you're reading the results, reading this, because I didn't watch the damn thing, I didn't care to, and it just seemed like they spent all these weeks building it up,
yeah,
on television to an audience, a large audience in America that really couldn't care less.
That's absolutely true. Like a lot of people,
but then they go to Saudi Arabia and they have the show, and it just feels like the overall vibe was WWE threw their hands up and was like, fuck it, it's a house show. Like, they don't know any difference. Like the Saudi royal prince thought that Yokozuna was still alive and asked if he could be on a show. Like, they don't know. They're like 30 years behind the real WWE times right now. So, it's a very weird element. That whole Saudi thing is like, I don't know. I don't really know that I get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, besides the money factor, like you have people like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, not going for, their particular reasons. Aleister Black couldn't appear because he has a woman's right tattoo on him. And you hear that Cena's refused to go to these shows after the first one that he went to.
Yes.
Ryan refuses to go to those shows.
Ryan.
I mean, Roman Reigns refused to go to the last one. He went to this one, so I'm assuming they threw him a pretty penny in order to get him to do that. But the WWE Championship match of Kofi Kingston against Dolph Ziggler. Like, Ziggler wasn't at WrestleMania. He wasn't like anywhere, and then all of a sudden appears out of nowhere. Ziggler presumably because Kevin Owens didn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. So they needed somebody. And, instead of doing the wild card thing, putting Drew McIntyre there or something like that, or Braun Strowman or whatever, they bring Ziggler out of nowhere and have him do that. And then even the Goldberg Undertaker match thing, like, again, it's cool that those guys were finally in the, same ring at the same time wrestling a match. But I mean, Undertaker, his last appearance, I think, was that Elias run-in.
Yep.
At the Raw after Mania, and Goldberg. I don't even remember the last time he was.
Last time around. Goldberg was in a match was WrestleMania against Lesnar when he dropped the title.
Okay, but Goldberg. But the reason why that program worked out so well is because Goldberg. Lesnar is believable enough to wrestle 3 to 5 minute matches, and he's a believable enough character that people could legitimately think, all right, he's going to kick the crap out of whoever he's going in the ring in 3 to 5 minutes tops. And historically, we all know Lesnar can go as long as anybody. He's cardio machine. He's a big guy. He knows how to work. And Goldberg historically, his matches were, the entrance, he, kicks, breathes the smoke, screams, yells, gets in the ring, whatever, bell goes off, throw him here, clothesline there, spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3, out. Anything longer than 5 minutes and Goldberg's sucking wind and he's not doing anything, not working very well. The Goldberg-Lesnar program worked out well because of that. Lesnar was believably able to adapt to that. Plus, they didn't have to they were throwing meat hooks and everything. Like, it didn't matter to them.
Yeah, exactly. It was a straight brawl where you're facing Undertaker, who knows how to work and wrestle and maintain a match. And Undertaker at 54 or 55 years old, however old he is now, I mean, he still knows enough about working to be able to have 8 to 10 minute matches. Like, he probably can't be flying over the top rope like he used to do anymore. And his flying clothesline that the flying clothesline I do in my matches were a tribute to that, might not get as high anymore as it used to, but he's adapted so many times so well to where I think Undertaker could wrestle a 10, 15 minute match in a completely different style than he has.
because that's in his, that is him. That's how he was able to do it. He's been around consistently enough to where even when he wrestles once a year, twice a year, or whatever, he knows how to adapt to make the match work. Whereas Goldberg clearly did not. And then, so, you bring the name value there, and that's what sold the Saudi show or whatever. But the match itself was, it was terrible. And a nice Undertaker meme came from that.
Yeah. And the thing is with the fault, even more fallout, like showing up behind it, is a lot of the superstars there didn't want to be there. They're like, it was poorly planned, poorly ran. The battle royal that they had pretty much was just throw whatever against the wall and see what sticks. And granted, you had the nice moment with the hometown guy, Mansoor, winning it, basically eliminating the Elias who ran down Saudi Arabia. But it was the thing of a lot of people were just not happy with the show, and a lot of people didn't care about the show. Yeah, they didn't care. Like, they tried their best, with the Lesnar cash-in teasing and things like that. And, they flew Brock Lesnar all the way out to Saudi Arabia to get his cash-in attempt stopped in its tracks. You know what I mean? They're I credit WWE for trying to make people give a shit, but nobody does with these Saudi shows. But because of the money and the way that they had to work things, like they worded the Super Showdown as being equivalent to or greater than WrestleMania. Yeah, and I joked that I feel like they had the commercial for the Saudi Arabian audience in Arabic, and they took the audio from that commercial and popped it in through Google Translate and got a nice broken English condensed version of what that commercial said. And then they told their announcer guy to read it because it just sounded terrible. Oh man. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. But coming off of this and a lot of people being unhappy, there's even more buzz building from Jon Moxley's interview with Chris Jericho, other things coming out, that a lot of talents in WWE are either getting ridiculous offers to stay with WWE or just riding their time until the time runs out and then they can leave and go to AEW or elsewhere.
Right. Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis announced a 5-year deal.
Yep.
They re-upped with WWE for 5 years. Yeah. Like that's a big deal, for a guy. And don't get me wrong, I am such a huge fan of Mike Bennett or Mike Kanellis in WWE. I'm such a huge fan of him because I've been following his personal journey.
Yes.
And his motivational videos kind of spoke to me. During my own personal turbulence last year, which I threw it out there, but during my own personal turbulence, that's what I mean. I obviously knew him from wrestling and whatever, but like that's what really made me become a fan because I saw what he was doing and listened to the words that he was saying, and it struck a nerve with me and it struck a chord with me, and so I'm thrilled that, I mean, even if he didn't sign with WWE and he ended up signing a 5-year deal with AEW, I would have been thrilled to hear that. Like that guy is I've never met him, but seems like such a good human and decent human being that he deserves that.
Well, those deals, the deals that we just talked about, they run to 2024, and Mike and Maria will be 39 and 42 respectively at the end of that. But a lot of
who's the older one?
I think it's Maria.
Damn, proud of her.
Yeah, but from the reports online is the amount of people who have contacted AEW would blow your mind regarding the talents who want out of the company.
Oh, I would imagine absolutely.
And
that,
it's also stated that the talents are getting ridiculous offers to stay, which is more money than these guys have ever made in their lives.
Well, and that's one of the benefits of AEW. You know, they talk about, and they always talk about with AEW, you know, competition's back, baby, you know, and people so desperately want that Monday Night War vibe and feel again. Like,
yeah,
you know, they desperately want that. But what people don't understand is that back then, going head to head on a Monday night was huge. Know why? Because there was VCRs. DVRs weren't really a thing then.
Yeah.
And so it was VCRs. So you had to have multiple TVs, where, you know, if you wanted to watch them both at the same time, or you had to channel flip or whatever, or you had to consciously pick one to tape and watch the other show from the other TV or whatever. Like nowadays with video on demand and, you know, a multitude of ways to watch TV, you know, Hulu, YouTube TV, you know, those kinds of things being available, you can watch AEW or you can watch WWE. I'll say you'll eventually be able to watch AEW once it's broadcast weekly.
Yeah.
But whenever you want, you can literally watch whatever you want, whenever you want. That's today's television. So it's not like it's going to be like it was back then, the ratings wars, because now you can have Joe Wrestling fan watching WWE on his big screen TV, but on his iPad, he's got the Watch TNT app going with AEW going on. If hypothetically speaking, they were to have shows going at the same time.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. Like the ratings things doesn't really matter now like it did back then, because there are other factors that aren't factored into ratings, such as the iPad, the streaming views, and things like that. Which is why the NFL, breaking into my sports world here, which is why the NFL is so damn confused by all of the, you know, the lower ratings dips over the course of the past few seasons. Well, it's because, you know, there's so many streaming services now. Twitter has, you know, throws their names in the hat for NFL games and things like that. BR Live was what the AEW pay-per-view was on. That was 100%. That was 100% streaming. You know,
and the next event for AEW, the Fire Fest, is going to be on BR Live, completely free, no cost.
Yes, I'm very, very pumped about that. But to go back to the original point about AEW's existence and your point of WWE offering mucho money to get people to stay, without AEW and without the backing, you know, without Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, there wouldn't be an AEW, right? But more than that, without the Khan family, who you know, Shad and Tony own the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah. They also own some soccer team out in England as well. They're not hurting for cash. That is the bank that you want to have bankrolling you, and the fact that Tony, Shad's son, is a wrestling fan and he's very into, you know, and he enjoys wrestling, like that helps their case. So having a billionaire, a multi-billionaire, again, bankrolling another pro wrestling company and creating the interest of the workers that were kind of, I don't necessarily want to say shackled, but you know, their opportunity to maximize their brand in front of a global audience, it was only limited to one place. Mm-hmm. You know, New Japan isn't broadcast. You know, New Japan exists, yes, and there's a great deal of New Japan and European style wrestling fans, but WWE is a different beast. It's a global brand. It is a brand that everybody has heard of. Yeah. You know.
Absolutely.
And now you have AEW here like that benefits on so many different levels, not just from the competitive brand standpoint, but from a peace of mind kind of standpoint, job opportunities for not just wrestlers, but other people in production and referees and announcers. And Chris Harrington, who goes by the name of Mookie, he's on, I've known him for years and years and years, but he's on the podcast with Brandon Thurston, WrestleNomics, or was on WrestleNomics with Brandon Thurston. He got a job in finance with AEW. Like, that job wasn't available in WWE, or may not have been available until somebody keeled over, one of their longtime positions. Like, this has afforded so many different opportunities, not just from a wrestling fan standpoint. And I think it's a wonderful thing. And what WWE's doing, tacking on the extra months for people that have been injured and things like that. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's silly.
Yeah, and the thing is with AEW, you got to look at what they just did. They announced their major event in Chicago, All Out, and then the tickets went on sale the other day, and within 15 minutes were sold out.
Right, which begs the question. The Sears Center is an 11,000 seat venue, which would likely house a good UFC fight night card or a minor league hockey team or something like that. Mm-hmm. They may want to consider bumping it up and going to the United Center where the Chicago Bulls play.
Well,
next time.
Yeah. The thing is from the report is the AEW All Out tickets went on sale, sold out in 15 minutes. The number of tickets that could have potentially sold for the event were 137,600. Right.
And that is, I do remember seeing that. And I actually threw a joke out there, but it was kind of like a not joke, but it was a joke. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, maybe Soldier Field in the summertime where the Bears play. That would be a great thing, but I don't know that that would translate well, because at least I don't know that it would happen, but it would be pretty cool if another company could fill a football stadium for pro wrestling. That would be pretty sweet. Yeah. But yes, that is football stadium numbers.
The reports said that nobody really expected this much demand for All Out, but the demand was to be in the range of 40 to 50,000 tickets.
Oh, wow.
But it was like they're looking at AEW should have not booked All Out in a stadium, like being the Sears Center. And it's like, people are hot for AEW.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. AEW did a tremendous job that their pay-per-view. It was I liked everything about it. And even the little things, like Jim Ross sitting high above ringside with the commentators, and so it had that old school vibe, like the old WWF or the old WCW, NWA, where the announcers were above the ringside looking down on the action. Gorilla and Bobby Heenan were always up there, and like that kind of stuff. So right there from the get-go, that was cool. I thought that. I do think that some of the professional wrestling styles that AEW brings might not necessarily be Jim Ross's cup of tea.
Oh yeah,
and there was a few matches that were so fast paced. It was like some tag team match or something like that, I think, or a women's match or something.
It was the six women tag team.
That's what it was
in Japan.
Yes, that's what it was. And you can tell he had a very hard time following what was going on and calling that action. But Cody versus Dustin.
Yeah, he was right
freaking there, and that made it the main event. That made it a main event feel. And then again with Jericho and Omega, mm-hmm. and then when Moxley came through the crowd and Jim Ross reacted the way he did, it was the whole event was just wonderfully done, and it definitely was a statement and I'm looking very, very forward to the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, and the thing with AEW is coming off of that, like Jim Ross has stated that he's reached out to Jerry Lawler to try to convince Lawler to come over to AEW.
Oh, well, I don't know that he can. I think he signed a deal recently.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just know that Ross had tried to reached out to see if he could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the big name that was out there that was kind of like will he, won't he type deal to either AEW or WWE is Joey Ryan, who he was just recently on a podcast with Sam Roberts, and he talked about how it's all the talent that's going to WWE or AEW's is good for the independent wrestling scene.
Well, yes, it is, because it's a trickle down, if you will. It leaves more. It now leaves more spots open for more wrestlers to have opportunities. AEW is going to likely go after, or has gone after, a lot of the super indie level people. Mm-hmm. Very much in a similar fashion that WWE started to do when they went and they signed Moxley and Rollins and Harper and like those guys. But they put them in the NXT level and then moved them up to WWE or whatever. Like they're going straight from the indies to major audiences, but with those, with AEW grabbing the super indie guys, the super indie talents, and starting to sign them to exclusive contracts and, everything that they have there, that leaves wide open spots for existing indie wrestlers that may be on the cusp of super indie, but couldn't quite get there because that spot was filled. Now that'll open up the opportunity for them to slide over to that role, do the best that they can, and hopefully become that next super indie guy. And that opens up a door for some new greenhorn to kind of get in. Like, all right, let's just say Ring of Honor, for example. Okay. It's Ring of Honor's top champion, whomever. We'll just say, all right, let's put Dalton Castle on that mix. Okay, so let's say AEW grabs Dalton Castle, takes him out of the Ring of Honor mix and out of, the indies that Dalton would, go to or whatever, make appearances in or whatever. That's a major void that now somebody else, could slide into, take Dalton's spot, and then it opens up a spot for somebody like, I don't know, randomly throwing out a name, and Eric Amanano or Thomas Brewington, if they were to, or Sean Carr or whomever that would, go to these, the entry level, like
even a Bill Collier.
Bill Collier, exactly, yes. But they would go to the Future of Honor thing or whatever, and there would be spots, like multiple spots open. So even if they didn't win the contest or whatever, but they impressed, hey, guess what? We want to bring you on anyways. And that spot is now open. Yeah. So it all works its way kind of masterfully, if you really look at it big picture wise. If you're stuck in the past and you're looking at it like AEW is going to take WWE down, like, I guarantee you nobody from AEW wants to do that.
No, not at all.
I guarantee you nobody wants to do that, because when there's only one show in town, as there has been for 20 years, just about, things get stagnant. It gets stale. And that also impacts at the lower levels too. The super indies, the regular indies, dare say even the shindies. But, whatever.
It all trickles down whether you want it to or not. It's like spots open, so on and so forth. But kind of flipping back to over with WWE, and something that WWE's been doing to try to gain more viewership, more audience, and keep people enthralled, is the 24/7 championship.
Yes. And I can't lie. You know what we should actually do? Because we've been yapping for a good minute. Pat G, I'm making my executive decision here. We need to go to a commercial break.
All right, I was waiting for that.
Well, you're the producer. This is your goddamn show, Pat.
Well,
you're supposed to be the one calling that shot.
I have the timer. Usually breaks are a half hour. We were about 5 minutes away. So, but
all right, very good.
But we will take a break. We got the bills to pay, of course.
That's right. You're gonna hear my voice, my voice. You're gonna hear my voice talking about whatever the hell I decide to plan here for ShopGear.com. But you're gonna hear my voice, and you're gonna hear it right now. Summer is here, ladies and gentlemen, and the deals are aplenty. Hi, everyone. John Cimino here for the GERE Radio Network to let you know that if you shop Amazon at all for anything, please consider using our link instead of using Amazon.com. Our link is shopgear.com. That's shopgere.com. Very simple, very small. But what it does is when you type that into your URL browser, it'll redirect you right to Amazon, right to your account, and you do all of the Amazon purchases that you normally would. But the difference between using my link versus using the regular Amazon link is you tell Amazon that we at GERE Network referred you, and they give us a small commission of your purchases, which goes a very, very long way to help sustain the free podcasting and help us continue to upgrade the studio as needed to continue to provide this content. So very, very easy for you to do. You use Amazon anyways. Shopgear.com. Use that redirect link just once. It'll stick to your cookies. It'll stick to your history, and you won't have to even bother using it again. Just type the letter S after you use it once. Shopgear.com will pop up. Boom. Hit enter. You're good to go. You're at Amazon. You're doing your Amazon shopping. You're getting your free 30-day trial of Prime, which gives you shipping in 2 days or less if you don't have Prime. If you do have Prime, you're still getting the benefits of it, my babies. And you're doing it, and you're helping out this small business by doing what you normally do anyways. Thank you very much, by the way, for all of the patronage that you have given us over the years using ShopGear.com and for the continued use of that link from all of us here at the GERE Radio Network.
And we're back here at the TTRP, Pat G, along with JC Money, talking the WWE 24/7 Championship and how WWE's banking on this to get more viewers via YouTube and social media services. And I think they succeeded.
Yeah, they're doing a very good job of that, because I can tell you that's the only piece of WWE programming that I've actually sat down and watched is via YouTube on my phone. When I see it on Twitter, I follow R-Truth and Drake Maverick because of it.
Yeah.
That I was skeptical at first when they introduced that title. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of silly. And then they gave it to R-Truth. And sometimes you can, you can swing at a pitch and you can, get a single, double, or a triple. But WWE threw this pitch. R-Truth swung the bat and hit a walk-off home run with this. Like, this division is what it is because of R-Truth and Drake Maverick, for that matter.
Oh, absolutely.
And so so they did a real good job of winning over the people that were mad that it wasn't the actual hardcore title. Which, hardcore wrestling sucks anyways. I'm sorry, hardcore wrestling fans that are watching this or listening to this, or hardcore wrestlers that still are hanging on to that dream, bro. ECW lives still, bro. There's a market for that wrestling, motherfucker. Like, no, hardcore wrestling sucks. Nobody needs it nowadays. If you can't work, go train. Grapplers Anonymous, I hear, is a really good place to do that. But, yeah, I lost my train of thought going on. Anyways, the 24/7 title, R-Truth has been killing it. I mean, Jinder Mahal winning it at a golf course. He's randomly at a golf course, and Jinder Mahal's randomly there with gear. With gear on. He's got gear on him. And he rolls him up at a golf course and pins him. And then he gets the belt back. But then they were boarding the airplane.
Yep.
And Mahal gets it, and then he loses the championship while Mahal was sleeping. It was, I don't know. It was just hilarious. It's hilarious, and I really like what they're doing.
Like, And that's what I was hoping, because they showed the clip of Jinder Mahal winning it on the tarmac and everything. And I'm like, yo, if Mahal doesn't lose this championship back to R-Truth by, like, via sleeping, I'm going to be very upset. And it's exactly what happened. Like, Mahal, like, pulled the blanket, and the plane's dark, and I love R-Truth. He comes down, and he's, like, just lifting people's blankets up, like, looking.
And he lifts up Mojo Rawley's, and Mojo's just standing there with his eyes open.
Yep.
I thought that was hilarious, too.
And then he lifts it up, finds Jinder, and instead of doing the old school, like, one finger, ref count silent, no, R-Truth just jumped on him and was, like, held him down.
And then hid in the bathroom and fist bumped the title while in the bathroom of an airplane. Like the European 24/7 championship. Well, this week he called it the European 24/7 7-Eleven championship. So it's got a number of different names here, but
I'm waiting for Drake Maverick to win it.
Oh yes,
Drake Maverick has been making this as money as R-Truth has via Twitter, like with his searching and everything.
Yes. There's going to come a point. There'll come a point. He'll win it, and he'll immediately lose it.
Oh yeah.
I would feel like that's what has to happen, but I could be very wrong. But I am enjoying the chase of R-Truth. Like when they did did you see where they did the scene from the movie Taken?
Yes.
And he says, I have a unique set of skills. I will find you and I will pin you. And then it gets quiet and you hear R-Truth on the other end. Good luck, dog.
Yep.
And I was like, as soon as that happened, I lost. I dropped my phone. I was laughing so hard. It was freaking hilarious.
I saw somebody on Twitter suggested that Corey Graves should win it and then instantly lose it to Renee Young.
Okay.
And I just looked at it and I was like, what? I'm like, why? Why do you have to involve announcers into this?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that would be a terrible thing, but I do have to say, on a side note, I love Corey Graves and Renee Young together in the booth. Like those two together, they remind me so much of Monsoon and Heenan.
Oh yeah,
when they going at it with one another the way they do. It's freaking hilarious. They're great. So I could see that situation happening, and I think I would be okay with that. But because then it would give them something else to talk about.
Yeah,
when they throw jabs at each other.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny when, speaking of Cole and Young, it's funny when they're going back and forth. Michael Cole trying to play just that straight faced like WWE announcer.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, oh, this is great.
I think the best part about like the WWE announcer gig is that you can tell when they go off on tangents.
Oh yeah,
and obviously you hear the stories about Vince McMahon just kind of screaming in everybody's ears. Okay, you need to say this or get this point off or whatever. Like I can't imagine that Vince would be sitting there listening to that and not laughing. Because how could you not? Like there was one that I remembered where the primetime players were doing commentary with Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, or Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler, and Jerry Lawler talked about tried to throw an insult at Titus O'Neil and said that he combs his hair with a wash rag, and Titus O'Neil just kept going, wash rag. What, Jerry? What decade are you in? And you hear, I think Coach might have been on commentary too, or somebody else might have been, but you hear them laughing. Titus is laughing. Cole's just trying to, kind of keep it together.
Straight face.
Trying to. He wasn't doing a good job of it. Jerry was laughing. And the entire match, it kept going back to the wash rag, and he's like, I'm from Memphis, man. What do you want from me?
Yeah. Well,
when they announcers go on that tangent, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Since we're speaking on Renee Young, the WWE, it's been reported that she's highly likely to be the host of the weekly WWE studio show that's going to be on Fox Sports 1. come
nice.
October when SmackDown moves to Fox.
Right.
Now, this studio show that they've talked about is going to be in similar taste to SportsCenter, PTI, and I believe First Take.
Okay.
Kind of like in that general thing and talking WWE. Okay. I look at it more about, I feel like it might be kind of following the path to them, but it's also going to be a live edition of what they were doing on the WWE Network with Rosenberg and JBL.
Okay.
The Talking Smack or whatever it was called.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about.
And with this is a lot of people are going, why are they doing this for all Renee Young? And I look at people, I'm like, this has nothing to do with who she's married to. The woman has put in her time and her effort.
Mm-hmm.
And she's being rewarded for it. For all the times that she hosted the pre-shows of Raw and the pre-shows of SmackDown and Talking Smack and the post and pre and post pay-per-view shows. Like, the woman has put her time in.
Right.
She, like, everything she's got right now, the reason she's on the announce team and stuff is because she's put her time in, she's done the work, and she's improved dramatically from day one. And people are like, oh, no, they're just doing this because she's married to Jon Moxley and they're trying to keep her. I'm like, she still goes on the road with him. Like, it has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that they like her. She's doing the work.
Right. Absolutely. And good for her. You know, I think I happen to enjoy her as an announcer and enjoy how she carries herself. And she got the ringing endorsement from Gene Okerlund before he passed away. And, you know, Michael Cole has been coaching her the entire, so like, they really like her in WWE. So all of these, you know, Twitter trolls, these armchair bookers that are out there, they're like, oh, they're just trying to, you know, they're trying to sweet talk her and to stay in there because AEW, brother, and her husband's there. Like, yeah, her husband's there, and her husband's going to be home when Renee Young gets home because they essentially have the same schedule now. You know, especially once the contract, the terms of the contract kicks in and he has to be exclusive to AEW. Yeah. Like, they're not doing house shows. They're not doing, they're taking the WCW approach of less dates. Yep. You know, so he's going to be home. They're going to be fine. Why not have a wrestling power couple dominating, you know, in prominent roles in both major companies? Like, I don't understand how that's a bad thing. And again, we go back to the people longing for the days of the Monday Night War and the days of the real blood, you know, bad blood between, you know, Ted Turner and Vince McMahon and all that stuff. And I'm telling you, this whole AEW versus WWE smoke show thing has been purely created by the fans.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm banking that the wrestlers on both sides are working the hell out of it because they know it's going to get attention. You know, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't Sasha Banks follow AEW? Because she knows somebody's going to see it. Some supermarket's going to see it, send it to a wrestling website, like WrestleZone or something like that, or Ringside News, and then they're going to post articles about it. And all it does is it puts her in the public eye, you know, for something other than whatever issue happened after WrestleMania with her and WWE and all that stuff. Like, that's just it. It's a giant work. But the thing that irritates me the most is the people that, you know, and their inability to let go and realize that we're in a different time period in the world, and it's not like it was. So no one company is going to put the other out of business and that type of crap. They're just going to up their games. WWE's clearly upped their games financially with the offers that they're making to people, because the cons can match it or beat it. And they know that. So it's all around. It's good for the wrestling business. So, you know, that's why we can't have nice things, is because people like that try their best to ruin it for everybody. Just freaking enjoy the show. Pick a show and enjoy it, or enjoy both.
Yeah, and the another thing with WWE is John Cena. Of course, for the last 10, 15 years, John Cena has been the face of the WWE. And he's obviously moved on. He's doing movies. He's doing the restarted Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And he's talked about how he's considered retirement, and especially and this was asked due to Goldberg Undertaker after the Goldberg Undertaker match.
Okay.
And I liked Cena's answer. He's like, I think an individual's career is up to the individual. I think that's pretty much the way I can describe that. I've been having the same conversation with myself. I'm only 42, but it's something we've got to address each day, and that's individually specific. When those people are ready to stop, they'll stop. And with that answer, I'm like, dude, he's right. It's when it's your time to stop. When your body is to the point of not being able to physically maintain or take the damage that it'll take inside a wrestling ring.
Mm-hmm. Right. And John Cena, nobody worked harder than him. And especially during this era of there only being one show, prominently in town.
Mm-hmm.
The John Cena took the company, put it on his shoulders, and carried it. And he got booed because, they're shoving John Cena down our throat and Super Cena and we've seen enough and all that crap. And for me, it wasn't really until probably about 2008 or 2009 when I was like, what he's doing is, what he's doing for the business. He was the guy that was keeping it afloat.
Oh, absolutely.
He was the one. He was doing the house shows. He was doing Raws. He would jump and do SmackDowns if he needed to. He would make an appearance in the other side of the world and then, go all the way back to do this. Like, he was a machine. Like that guy did so much for the company, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes. And you could talk about all, but then, for all of that and all the Make-A-Wish things that he's done and all of the charity work that he does and putting over people, because he's Super Cena and he doesn't lose, yet he put over Kevin Owens and Owens' first match back to the main roster and put over Roman Reigns and, was doing it the right way. And then he did this with just Kenny Dykstra and Mickey James and all that crap. And it's like, yeah, okay, people are young and people were young and do stupid things, but that doesn't take away from his body of work and the major impact he leaves on the wrestling business. Like, literally the day after WrestleMania 26 or 27, whichever one was the one with Cena and The Miz.
27.
27, okay. And then The Rock was like the enforcer or whatever in that match.
Yeah, the guest host, and that's when they started the year build for Cena Rock.
But that's the thing, is Cena was that good that he could do a legit, in today's day and age, he was good enough to do the year-long build.
Yep.
Between him and The Rock the day after the WrestleMania, and they said, you know what, WrestleMania next year, you and I, let's do it. And Cena was like, okay, let's do it. And they spent all year keeping it in everybody's minds while Cena was there every single week doing his thing and still making his appearances and then putting out something, oh, I haven't forgotten about The Rock, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. WrestleMania is coming. I got to make sure I'm in tip-top shape and blah, blah, blah,
and
whatever.
And
he did it. And
Survivor Series tag team match.
You're right. The Survivor Series tag team match.
Where him and The Rock faced Miz and R-Truth.
Right. Yes. And I mean, wrestling fans, I think, took advantage, or not advantage, took him for granted. I think that's the terminology I'm looking for. They took him for granted. And now he's basically saying, I'm probably done. I may not be, but if I am, that's just the way it is kind of thing. And
he also came out with recent comments saying that WWE doesn't need him to be the face anymore. Like, there's not really a face of the WWE, but there's numerous guys in the WWE that are carrying that torch.
Right. Yes. And I agree with that assessment because, they tried it with Roman Reigns. And, I'm a huge fan of the NOI family. So I'm a huge fan of Roman Reigns. And I was fine with him being the guy.
Yeah.
But, at some point, you don't need the guy.
Mm-hmm.
You can have several guys and girls, for that matter, to pique interest. And that's kind of the direction I feel that they're going in. Is that they're going in a match where in a direction very similar to UFC, where they could put a main event card, bantamweight championship match as the main event of the card, but have the undercard be whatever the hell it is, or whomever it is, and people would be fine because they're going to tune in because there's something there for everybody to see.
Well, that's
so they're not building. So they're not building things like WWE. I mean, WrestleMania, big pay per views, a Universal Championship match or WWE title. It's centered around that. But for the most part, like, what's the one that's coming up right now? Stomping Grounds.
Yep.
Who is it built around? Not built around anybody. It's built around everybody.
Yep. It's built. A lot of people are like, well, they named it for Seth Rollins. No, they didn't. They named it for everybody because right now the WWE is a stomping ground. And look at the announcement they just made for Raw. They're having a 5-way match featuring The Miz, Cesaro, Ricochet, Braun Strowman, and Bobby Lashley. And the winner faces Samoa Joe for the U.S. title at Stomping Grounds. All 5 of those guys can contend for the Universal Championship.
Yes, they can, and that's I think the again going back to the UFC reference with that, that way they can plug and play whomever they want, into the Universal Championship picture, like Baron Corbin, for all the crap that people give Baron Corbin, like I saw Baron Corbin at a house show here in Rochester in March or April, I can't remember when it was. Luke Harper was on that show, and the crowd erupted for that. And I think it was that, and then the NXT show at WrestleMania weekend, and that was it for him. Now now they're doing him dirty. And that doesn't make me happy, but I'll leave my opinions on that to myself. But I was at that house show, and the main event was Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin, and that followed Ronda Rousey's appearance, where she threw around the Riot Squad, all 3 members, and it was like 2 minutes, and then that was it. And then she left. And then after that was Baron Corbin against Braun Strowman. And it was at that point when I started actually watching the man work. Yeah. Like, Baron Corbin can go. Baron Corbin's a good freaking worker. And he had the heat of the building. He had everybody eating out of the freaking palm of his hand. And then when Braun, building up to the table spot, because it was a tables match, building up to the table. And then finally when Braun, he makes the mistake, Strowman picks him up, power slams to the table, crowd erupts. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, damn, if everybody could see this Baron Corbin, they would be like, why isn't he Universal Champion?
And that's the thing. Like, I've heard before that show, I had heard reports like, guys, like Baron Corbin during these house shows, man, he's legit. He can work. He can hit his work on the mic. He's got the crowd hating him every word. And I watched a friend of mine went to a house show down in Tennessee, and he sent me like the video, and I think it was Corbin. It was Corbin versus Rollins.
Okay.
And I watched and they had they legit had a 20-minute match, and it was just holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, okay.
Well, right.
From what I'm hearing is right.
Right. So you take that and then you put it in this perspective where when Baron Corbin is on TV, he doesn't need to do all of that because he's generating a different kind of heat.
Yep.
And so he doesn't have to go all out every single television appearance like he would in a house show or whatever, because you can have more fun at house shows. Reportedly, from what I told, I've never wrestled there, so I couldn't tell you. But you know, he doesn't need to do that on TV,
mm-hmm.
and that's great because then if he gets that, you know, he gets that Universal title match on American soil at a pay-per-view event, he can do house show Baron Corbin.
Yep.
At the pay-per-view event, while weaseling his way on the build up to there, and then he could go back to TV Baron Corbin as Universal Champion saying, look, I told you, ha 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 ha, and he could be the cowardly Baron Corbin taking cheap way out or whatever. Like, he's just, I think he's grossly underrated. I think he's one of the most underrated talents that WWE has.
Oh,
and not really underrated, underappreciated. I think that's what the term I'm looking for is, underappreciated.
Baron Corbin right now is in the spot that The Miz was at one point.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Where The Miz was, he went in, he did what he had to do, he got the crowd, and everything, but you could tell that The Miz was underappreciated or undervalued to a certain degree, and then finally they let Miz start doing more and more, and now you have The Miz where he's at now.
Right. Exactly.
Baron Corbin's in that same kind of spot.
Yes, absolutely. That's a very, very, that's a very valid comparison there. Absolutely. Because The Miz, I remember when The Miz won his WWE title, and he has WWE title run, people were like, that would be like giving the Honky Tonk Man the WWE championship. And then you see how The Miz has transformed himself over the course of the past few years since his title run ended. And it's like, damn, you know, he's really freaking good.
You got to remember, when he had that WWE title run, he was the third wheel on the Rock Cena train.
Right, exactly.
And he's like, guys, just because Rock Cena is here doesn't change the fact that I'm still champion.
Exactly.
I'm the guy.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's that Baron Corbin's in that same spot, and it's just a matter of time before Baron Corbin raises his game up to where The Miz did.
Yes. Well, I think I would argue he's already there. He just doesn't have the championship, the official championship to validate that. But I feel he's already there. I personally feel he's going to be the one to take the Universal title off of Rollins. You know, I know that, you know, because I still think that somehow, unless this Shane McMahon becoming WWE champion thing rumor is actually a thing, I still think that there's a chance Lesnar would be moved to SmackDown to cash in on Kofi Kingston, because they want star power, they want names for their shiny new logo on Fox on Friday night.
Dross.
Right.
Fox wants Dross. But finish up the show as we're coming to the end. We're going to talk a little local independent wrestling from Southern Tier Wrestling, who had their Take Me Out to the Brawl game event this past Thursday night.
Okay. I have to be honest with you. I literally know nothing about Southern Tier Wrestling. STW. I know the acronym, and I know that a lot of my friends work there, but I couldn't tell you who's champion there. I couldn't tell you any of the storylines. I couldn't tell you anything about it. I've literally never been there.
I've been there a couple times. It's good company.
Okay.
But running down the card,
Who runs it?
Win,
Who runs Southern Tier Wrestling? I'm curious.
I believe it is Johnny O and somebody else, and I can't remember his name.
Okay.
He helped with Maximum Force Wrestling at times and BCW back in the day.
Oh, all right. Well, two places I couldn't care less about either way, so that would probably explain why I don't know.
Running down the card real quick, Finn to win, Mako and Vinnie Moon picking up the victory over the Nazi Mafia with Super Beast to retain the tag belts.
Who with Vinnie Moon?
Mako.
Mako, okay.
Yeah. I'll tell you who it is off air.
Okay. Thank you.
Andrew Anderson defeating Marco Styles. The family of Rob Sweet and the Landlord with Super Beast defeating the Unbookables, Mikey Everynight and Waz with Jonathan Ash. The special guest referee was Topher Sinclair, former manager of Waz.
All right.
Matt Rafflet defeated Ryan Cassidy by disqualification. Afterwards, Ryan Cassidy assaulted many officials until being basically thrown out of the arena by ST owner Randy Gray. That's the man I was talking about.
Okay. All right.
The Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine made a special in-ring appearance.
Did they sing Honka Honka Honky Love?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, thanks, Pat G. You're supposed to know this crap.
A match that I'd seen parts of on via Facebook. Terrell Kenneth defeating Mike Skyros and Anthony Gaines in a triple threat match to become the number one contender for the STW Heavyweight Championship.
I would love to watch that match. Those are three of my favorites. Three. TK is my nephew. Skyros has appeared on the JC Money Show a few times talking basketball and as well as wrestling. And by the way, Skyros, believe me, I will get you on, especially after this Anthony Davis news to the Lakers thing. Want your take on that. But and then Anthony Gaines is just an unbelievable talent, and they're three of my favorite. They're three of my favorite characters to follow, and just three of my favorite people that I've had the pleasure of working with. So that's a match I have to look for and watch.
Oh, definitely. Vince Valor defeating Brandon Thurston to retain the SCW Fireheart Championship. Afterwards, Thurston challenged Valor to a submission match at the next event, Midway Mayhem, at July 17th. Dave Bentley defeated Sebastian Braun after a distraction by Anthony Gaines, which played into the distraction Sebastian Braun had in the triple threat, causing Gaines the match. And then in the main event, to Infinity and Beyond, Colin Delaney and Cheech defeated the Divine Alliance of Johnny Puma and the Caesar with John Kennedy. After that, Caesar fired Kennedy, but Kennedy was viciously attacked by Ryan Cassidy. So STW is a very solid company. Obviously.
All right. So for those of us that don't, where does STW run?
They primarily run like Jamestown, Fredonia, Dunkirk area.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Fredonia, Bone Crusherville.
Yeah.
All right.
SCW's basically taken the spot that was vacated by Maximum Force Wrestling.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right. So it's that region. Because I wasn't sure where it was in comparison to the ESWs or Nickel Cities.
Yeah, no, they run like the Bone Crusherville.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
As you quoted.
Well, I mean, and that makes sense then because, just past the then ESW and OSPW lines, I didn't really know much about Maximum Force Wrestling other than that I thought that Warpath was a tool and I didn't really care about MFW. Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't really know what's going on that far down.
Understandable.
But judging by the card that you listed there, I'd give STW a shot. I wouldn't mind checking out a show. I worked the Chautauqua County Fair show, not last summer, but the summer previous. Okay.
They put on a good show.
I mean, I've seen pictures and I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I've also heard of the other one, the NTW one. I don't know if that's
that one's in PA. That one's a straight shindy.
Oh, okay. That's what I've heard about them too. So, all right, yeah. That's fair. Thank you for clarifying that, Patrick.
Yeah, no, STW is kind of like it's probably in between as far as talent wise and the kind of show they put on. It's better than OSPW, but not as good as ESW.
I mean, not too many things were worse than OSPW. Like I think on the see, I told you, Pat G. God damn it. I think like on the chain of back when I was wrestling regularly, like the chain of like best to worst, like OSPW was just like right above UW. And y'all know how I feel about UW. So saying it's slightly better than OSPW. Well, I mean, I could probably get the neighborhood kids to fight in my pool, and it would probably be better than that.
It's probably a couple steps under ESW.
Okay. All right. That's fair. So it would be like UPW equivalent, right? Because UPW is not what it once was. It wasn't the a near super indie that it once was during the days when Luke Harper and Jimmy Olsen were rocking and rolling there. They were bringing in Danny Doring and all that stuff. But UPW still, as much as I don't particularly care for Hellcat. And that's well documented. That's not a spoiler or anything. Anybody that follows me knows that. But as much as I don't particularly care about him, the company has pretty decent wrestling from what I've been able to see, the bits and pieces that I've, tuned into or whatever. And so, we'll put it on that level.
Yeah, I'll put it on the STW's on a UPW level.
All right, that's fair.
So, but that's going to do it for us. That's been the TTRP. I'd like to thank JC Money for joining me.
I would like to thank myself as well because I'm freaking awesome. But yes, thank you, Pat G, for having me.
And also thank him for allowing us to use the GERE Network Studios.
Yeet. Of course. Anytime. Well, I can't say anytime because I'm a very, very busy person. But,
sure.
I do appreciate you enjoying the GERE Network Studios and everything that we have here by way of where you are. But anyways, go ahead and do your close thing, man.
Yeah.
But can I yell Cyclone just for old time's sake?
You know what? I'm going to let you do it.
All right. Oh, wait. No, I don't really know Ish Jones's or Gabe. Cyclone Jones he's got like 7,000 names, over the course of the time that I've known his old ass. But hang on, let's see if I can do this. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy. You know how we do. I know how I do. You don't know how I do, but I know how you do, and I know that you know how I know how you do. I can't do that. Sorry.
No.
That's you, baby. That's you. But Pat G, Cyclone. Okay, go ahead and end it now. However you want. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, for JC Money, I'm Pat G. The G stands for gangster. Catch us on the flip side of the next TTRP.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the GERE Network. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Do you like sports, interactive polls, friendly banter from two guys that probably shouldn't even be on the microphone doing this stuff anyways? Well, if you do, then you're in luck. Us two knuckleheads, Brandon and myself, comprise the Listen In podcast. That's right, Listen In, the podcast. We're talking sports, we're talking news, we're talking topical things, we're talking all sorts of things, my babies, and you are all invited to listen in right here on the GERE Radio Network.